think it'll be interesting to hear this talk. So joining us will be the Director of Product Development at Byte Federal. Welcome, Michelle Weekley.
All right. If your price is not your life, you are corruptible. What does this even mean? What is corruption? How does it work? How did it all get so bad? And most importantly, what can we do to stop it? My name is Michelle Weekley. I'm the Director of Product Development at Byte Federal. We were one of the first Bitcoin ATM companies in the United States. I lead their digital product development, so we have a non-custodial wallet. We have a merchant solution, and there's a number of other various products that we're working on. Before I worked in Bitcoin, I spent several years working in foreign direct investment, where I had a front row seat to global corruption at the highest possible level. So enough about me. Let me ask you guys a question. Raise your hand if you have ever accepted a bribe. I got one brave soul out there. Anybody else? Okay. What is a bribe? Is a bribe if I buy you a cup of coffee? What if I take you to dinner? What if I buy you a first-class plane ticket halfway around the world, and then I take you to dinner? Which of those are bribes? Which of them are not? It's just not as straightforward as we would like to think that it is. It's not as black and white. So I'm going to say this again. If your price is not your life, you're corruptible. Maybe it's not a dollar amount that you would be willing to take. Maybe it is. But maybe it's your family. Politicians and mobsters worldwide are very well known for using our loved ones to corrupt us. Corruption is just not that straightforward. There are no card-carrying members of the corruption party. We don't just rubber stamp something as corruption. If we could do that, we could just throw them all out the window, right? You guys are familiar with this concept in Prague. I don't know if it's as socially acceptable anymore to throw people out the window, but maybe we should bring it back. There has never been a more important time to talk globally about corruption. The ruling party in my home country is trying to jail its political opponent. Now, love him or hate him, the whole thing is bullshit and it's full of corruption. Of course, Prague, Czech Republic, corruption is not a foreign concept, right? Prague is known worldwide for a long history of corruption. And Chechens don't put up with any shit, which is awesome. Keep it up. You guys are doing great, actually. I love it. Interestingly enough, when I was doing my research, I was trying to look into the history of corruption here in the Czech Republic. And all I could find were all of these charts talking about fiat currency and the correlation between your currencies and the US dollar. I'm sure that one has nothing to do with the other, but we all know that it actually does. So what exactly is the correlation? How did it all get so intertwined? And why should we even care? Doesn't Bitcoin fix this? Aren't we in Bitcoin so that we don't have to care? Well, unfortunately, you can't guard against something that you don't understand. So it's really important for people in Bitcoin, especially those of us here. It's industry day. A lot of you work in the industry. A lot of you are building the products and services that people in Bitcoin are going to be using. So it's extremely important, especially for the people in this room here at this event today, to understand corruption so that we can protect against it. So in order to understand corruption, what does it even mean technically, right? We talk about corruption all the time. Corruption is the process by which something is changed from its original use or meaning. It's the journalist wants to expose corruption in the highest places. It's dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving a bribe. So what's a bribe? A bribe is it's generally a monetary exchange used to persuade someone to do something that's generally illegally or dishonest. So that's all well and fine. But ultimately, so this is my definition of corruption. Corruption is just a lie or a series of lies. And the scale is determined by the magnitude of the lie and by the number of people who are willing to participate in it or to just ignore it, right? If we pretend that it's not happening, maybe it'll stop happening. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So, step one. Jail your political opponents. We don't just start here, right? So if we look at the US, if we look at what's happening around the world, step one is not to jail our political opponents. You don't just end up in a helicopter touring ghost cities in China. This is not day one on the job. First, you get recruited to work in foreign direct investment. You accept the job. You may or may not be super qualified for it, but you buy into the ego boost that I'm going to take this really great job. And you let it slide when they write a press release full of lies. You bring it to HR, but they just shrug, and they tell you, look, it makes you look better, so it makes us look better. Okay? We keep our mouths shut. We let it slide. You're just encouraged to let it be. This is perhaps the first red flag, but what do? Do you just give up the job that you've accepted? Do you call your old job back? Can I have my job back? Everyone is so proud of you. Are you really, really sure? Are you confident enough to give up everything because you've noticed a couple of little things? You're making more money than you've ever made in your life. You have a big, important title. Your parents are super impressed. And you really feel like you're getting your life together. So maybe you're still a little young. Maybe you're in a new industry. You're not quite confident enough to say, you're all full of shit. I'm going to leave this life-changing job on the hunch that you're all liars. It takes a lot of confidence to do that. So you let it slide, right? Who am I? I don't know everything. I don't really know how this all works. I've got this great job. My parents are so proud of me. So you let it slide. Some time goes by. Some deals are made. You're doing your job. Most of what you're doing is totally legitimate. You get to know your new colleagues. They seem really nice people. They don't seem like people whose lives are built entirely on lies. So then you get a big partnership deal. There's a land developer in China that wants some research and data. Cool, that's what we do. This is what they do in foreign direct investment. You work with countries and regions and special economic zones, large institutional businesses, and as a consultant, you provide consulting services to help facilitate different business and investment decisions. So you get working on your new project. there's a bunch of phone calls, contracts, late nights, you get a translator, there's lawyers, all of a sudden you've got a WeChat, and then you end up in China on a business visa. Cool, a business trip. This must be super legit, right? So you go to China, there's a lot of wining and dining. It's actually, in China, it's sake and karaoke, but it's standard. There's an elaborate signing ceremony, and the deal that you're working on is in Chinese newspapers. It seems pretty cool. Then you find yourself in a helicopter flying through rural Beijing, touring entire towns that are empty. So now we're in the helicopter. It's not day one. It's a few months later. Sometimes it's a few years later. So now things are getting a little weird. But you're not an expert on economic development. You're not an expert on land development. Is it weird? What's really happening here? Is it me? Am I the crazy one? Wait a second. He just said that this development was 30% occupied, and that the numbers were expected to double next year. The entire building was completely fucking empty. Something weird is going on here. It was, in fact, all a complete sham. But they've made sure that you're all going to keep your mouths shut. They rolled out the red carpet, literally. They've made sure that you're all getting bonuses. They've made sure that you've all put in enough time and work that you're probably not willing to stand up and say, forget it, it's all canceled. Even if you were willing to do that, what do? Do you call the corruption hotline? Does this even exist? If it does, they've probably been bribed. So you go home, you accept your bonus, and you pretend that it was all true. So this is the crux of it. This is how corruption works. Corruption is facilitated by collective silence. Corruption thrives in a society where people are too afraid to speak up, and where value is created out of thin air from lies. Of course, this is only possible with fiat money that can just be printed out of thin air. Bitcoin fixes this. Bitcoin is hope because it represents the truth. It represents the truth. It's fully transparent, and it's auditable. It cannot be printed out of thin air.
Bitcoin does have heroes, and if you're looking in the mirror right now, chances are you're seeing the face of one of those heroes. So don't tell me there are no heroes in Bitcoin. Just be one.
Just be one. I was really inspired by this promo video that BTC Prague did. I don't know if you've all seen it. If you haven't, you should watch it. It's awesome. And the theme of this clip is, if you're looking in the mirror, you're probably a hero. Everybody in Bitcoin right now think we're all heroes. We must also all be the truth. I cannot overstate to you the impact of speaking the truth. If corruption is enabled by silence, we can literally stop it dead in its tracks by speaking the fuck up. Level up by speaking up. We all have the power to protect Bitcoin, including the products and services that we are building in the Bitcoin ecosystem. By simply being honest, speaking up when we see something that doesn't make sense. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with people around you, with your colleagues, your friends, and your family. If you're in this room, you have the responsibility to do so. We are the builders, in Bitcoin, and we must build a moat around the ecosystem. We must take on the responsibility to maintain the truth in Bitcoin. Defenestrate the liars. If someone is not willing to tell the truth, throw them out the window. Maybe not literally, but metaphorically. We can build a moat around the products and services that we are building. We can build a moat around the Bitcoin ecosystem so that the new world that we're building is the world that we want to live in. Not everyone can see the truth, but he can be it. Be the truth. That's all.